Hey guys, Simon here, and in today's episode we have some pickups to take a look at, so let's get into it. Well, it's Friday night, so let's sit down and have a chat about games. But before we get started, I just wanted to say that these pickups are not recent. They are items that I have obtained over the past year during my time away from YouTube. And with pickup videos moving forward, I'm not going to talk about heaps of items per video, just maybe 4 or 5 at a time, just to help keep the vid short. And I only really like to focus on titles that I have played, just so I can share thoughts and give a quick chat about each one. So first up is a copy of Ion Fury. This is a retro-themed FPS developed by Voidpoint and published by 3D Realms, and it's been constructed entirely in the build engine, which is the same engine that powered PC classics such as Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, and a personal favourite of mine, Blood. Absolutely love that game. But as for Ion Fury, this game is a complete masterpiece. It's the most fun I've had with a shooter, just because of how well crafted the gunplay is and its modernised take on the retro shooter genre. So if you're a fan of 1990s 3D Realm games and anything running in the build engine, this is a must-have title. Next up is the Resident Evil 3 remake. Now as a kid, Resident Evil 3 was my favourite Resi game of all time. So after finding out that we were going to get a remake of number 3, I was ecstatic. And considering how good the Resident Evil 2 remake was, I had some pretty high hopes. But after Resident Evil 3 remake released and I sat down and spent some time with the game, I was left slightly disappointed. Now, it wasn't exactly a bad game, but when compared with the original version, the remake just felt really stripped down. An example of this was the missing scenes. So that's the City Hall, the press office, the Raccoon City Park, the graveyard, and the Dead Factory. Removing these scenes just took away from the game's atmosphere that the original version did so well. And then the areas in the remake we did get to visit, they also felt stripped down. And unfortunately, that includes encounters with the Nemesis himself, as he lacked that intimidation factor and the feeling of being stalked like the original version had. But as mentioned, it wasn't a bad remake. I just think it was rushed and it could have used a little bit more time in development so it could pay a proper tribute to the original. The next game is a little bit of a guilty pleasure of mine that I played leading up to Christmas of 2019, and it is Terminator Resistance. Now this game wasn't overly popular. In fact, the developers of this title, Teon, also made 2014's Rambo the game, which was terrible, so I was pretty cautious about picking this up. But for the longest time I've wanted a Terminator game that was based during the events of the Future War, and that's exactly what this offers. Just running around shooting Terminators with all types of ballistic weapons and plasma rifles while still paying homage to Terminator 2. However, I will admit the story was pretty average and the graphics weren't jaw-dropping, but the game was just simple to pick up and play with nothing overly complicated to do. And the sounds of the plasma rifles firing just really hit me in the nostalgia button every time, as a majority of the sound effects for this game were pulled straight out of the first 2 Terminator movies. So if you're a fan of T1 and T2, I definitely think Terminator Resistance is a title worth checking out. And last up is a copy of Doom Slayer's Collection. And to be honest, I didn't even know that this was a thing until one Saturday morning I was in my local EB game store, saw this on display, I've then picked it up and I've noticed that it contains Doom, Doom 2, Doom 3 and Doom 2016. And I thought that was awesome because it would be great to have all those titles on a physical disc, only to then pay for it, take it home and find out that Doom, Doom 2 and Doom 3 are only downloads and that the only game on the physical disc was Doom 2016. Now, I probably should have checked this first before buying it, but it just would have been really good if the first 3 games had a physical release on the PS4, especially Doom 3. I've got tons of fond memories staying up late of a high school night back in 2004, playing Doom 3 on my PC. I just really enjoyed it because it was such a departure from the original games gameplay-wise. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the originals, they are timeless classics. I just loved the horror aspect of the third game, as the atmosphere was just so creepy and tense. Well, that is it for today's video, so let me know in the comments below what you have all picked up recently and what have you been playing. Also, how many of you managed to secure a PS5 launch pre-order? I managed to get my pre-order in for launch with a couple of games and peripherals. pretty hyped up to play Demon's Souls. That looks amazing, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. So bring on November 12th. Anyway, guys, as always, remember, keep that positivity flowing, and I'll see you next time with more PlayStation content.